Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. Today I'm going to be installing this strut in this 2011 Ford Explorer. If you need these parts or other parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. Whenever you do any kind of suspension work or front end work on a vehicle, you're going to want to go to a local shop and have the alignment performed because you don't want any premature tire wear. We're going to loosen the lug nuts up. I'm just going to use a 19mm socket and a breaker bar. I'm just going to crack them free. Now we're going to raise and support the vehicle. We're using a 2-post lift. If you're doing this at your house, you can use a jack and jack stands. All right, we're going to remove the lug nuts. Once those lug nuts are off, take the tire off. I'm going to spray some rust penetrant on here. That'll help us get the nut off. I'm also going to spray rust penetrant on these 2 bolts for the strut. All right, now we're going to use a 21mm wrench. We're going to loosen this nut. Once it loosens a little bit, the stud is going to spin as well. So we're going to need to hold the stud. I'm going to use a 10mm socket and a ratchet. That'll hold the stud. You're going to put the ratchet on tighten. That'll keep it from spinning while we're loosening the nut. And once it gets pretty loose, it won't spin back and forth anymore. And I should be able to take it off by hand. There we go. Now I can take it off by hand. And pull it up. So we'll slide this out of the strut bracket. May have to turn the wheel a little bit. Slide that out and out of your way. All right, now we're going to take these bolts out for the front strut. I'm going to use a 21mm wrench and a 24mm socket and a breaker bar. Loosen the nut up. All right, before I take that off, I'm going to loosen up the bottom one. Now I'll switch to a ratchet, take this nut off. Take that nut off. We'll take the top nut off. Before I take those bolts out, I'm just going to remove this ABS wire. Just pull this out, the little rubber grommet, slide it off. Now I'm going to take a hammer and tap these bolts out. Tap the bottom one out. Should be able to just wiggle them out. And we can separate the knuckle from the strut. We're going to have to take these 4 nuts off up top here. There's a 15mm socket and a ratchet. And it'd be better if I had like a semi-deep 15, but just a regular 15 will work. I'm just loosening these up. Before I take the last nut off, I am going to have to support the strut assembly. You want to make sure you do not take this middle bolt out, this middle nut. Just take the outer ones off. Now with the last one on there, I'll grab the spring and strut assembly and then take this last nut off. Then I can grab it from underneath, get the ABS wire out of my way, slide it down, and pull it out. One thing you want to make sure about this knuckle is the brake hose. Make sure you don't have too much tension on the brake hose right here. That's good, but if it was sagging anymore, you want to put something underneath here to support it. Just keep that in mind. Here's our old strut assembly. Here's our new strut assembly from 1aauto.com. As you can see, the shape is the same bracketry, same brackets here. The holes are in the same position. Has a nice spring that it comes with. Flip it around, the strut mount is the same. Comes with new nuts. Get yours at 1aauto.com and you'll be ready to rock and roll. We're going to take the nuts off this strut mount before we install it into the vehicle. And then we'll line it up underneath. And then once that's lined up, install the nut. Then I can let go of the strut. You could also use a helper if someone wants to hold the strut while you're trying to put the nut on. That would be a lot easier. So I'm going to take a 15mm socket and a torque wrench. I'm going to tighten these nuts up to 41 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to take the knuckle, line it up with the strut assembly. It's going to take a little bit of effort to force it in there. Oops. There we go. Pull this up a little bit. You're supposed to replace these nuts and bolts when you're doing this job. At least Ford recommends to replace them. But we're going to reuse these. Take a hammer and just hammer them in. And take the nut. Put that on, put that one on. Now I'm going to take my 24mm socket and ratchet and 21mm wrench. Hold the bolt with the wrench and tighten down the nut. Same with down here. Now I'm going to torque these with a torque wrench. I'm going to torque them to 180 foot-pounds. Now we're going to take this ABS harness and slide it into the bracket right there where the rubber grommet is. Now we're going to line this top of the sway bar link up. Right through there. Take the new sway bar link nut, slide that on. Right. We're going to tighten that down, then we're going to torque it. I'm going to torque this nut to 111 foot-pounds. Reinstall the tire. Put the lug nuts on. And lower the vehicle. Now we're going to torque these lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. We're going to use a torque wrench and we're going to torque them in a star pattern. The reason you do it in a star pattern is so that the wheel gets tightened down properly against the rotor and evenly. You can go around again just to double check. Make sure you got them all. You're good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.